I'm here today because I unfortunately have found myself getting super into another musician from the 60s. You can tell this is bad news because of how I look. I've clearly done this once before. Today I'm going to tell you how I tricked myself into liking Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan needs no introduction, so I won't give it. You know who Bob Dylan is. Like a rolling stone, how does it feel? That's him. Bob Dylan is an artist that I've wanted to get into for a while because I love learning about popular music. And he seems like a really interesting guy, but the times before that I've tried to get into him, I've struggled a lot liking Bob Dylan. A lot of the times when I'm getting into music, something that'll help me is buying a physical copy of one of the albums of the artist that I'm trying to get into. So I did this with Autechre, the last artist I got super into. I bought one of their NTS Sessions albums, and all of a sudden that like unlocked everything for me. When I'm holding the thing physically and I set it down and play it, I think it just like dedicates a lot more brain space to being able to process the music that I'm hearing. And it just makes me feel more excited. Like, oh, here's this thing that I'm gonna listen to, as opposed to just kind of like clicking around online where it's so easy for me to kind of like click away if I don't like it right away. Anyway, so I tried to do this with Bob Dylan. It's not this copy. I bought Blonde on Blonde on vinyl a couple of months ago. And I was like, this is gonna do it for me. I love a double album. It's late 60s. I'm sure I'm gonna love it. And I put it on and I made it like 3 songs in and I was like, I do not like this. I do not enjoy this. That harmonica is like, right into your ears. It is loud. It is a loud harmonica. Now I love that, but bear with me. At the beginning, I did not like that. And so I was listening to it, I didn't like it, and I was kind of rounding up some albums that I was gonna sell the next time I went to the record store. And so I brought that back and they looked at me kind of funny because they did remember selling it to me earlier, like the week before. Tried it, didn't like it, left it alone for a couple of months. This year, my family got me different records for Christmas, and my grandma got me one from Bob Dylan. She signed it, which was very sweet, and got me Bob Dylan Bringing It All Home, Bringing It All Back Home. For some reason, side note for anyone who is wanting to hear this, the album inside is Highway 61 Revisited. It's a new copy of quote unquote Bringing It All Back Home, but it is not Bringing It All Back Home. This is Highway 61 Revisited, the album that comes after this. Still a good album, but I was confused for a little bit when none of the songs matched up with what I was hearing. So I got that, and then also the Timothée Chalamet movie came out. Now all of a sudden, I have 2 things pointing me directly into the Bob Dylan direction. I have an emotional attachment to it, and I have Timothée Chalamet going like a rolling stone. And that's enough for me to give Bob Dylan another chance. I wanted to listen to more of his stuff, and so what I ended up doing was jumping around random albums online. And all of a sudden, I got into Blood on the Tracks, his 1975 album. I really like this album a lot. Who's shocked? A lot of people say it's their favorite Bob Dylan album, or it's the best Bob Dylan album. I'm not here to give new hot takes. I'm here to tell you how I tricked myself into liking Bob Dylan. And that was through enough times of trying, through that movie, through the emotional attachment to the gift that I got, I ended up landing on a 70s Dylan album that first got me really into his sound. One thing I feel like has been really fun with listening to Bob Dylan, which I'm sure a lot of people share this, is just repeating any of the fun phrases in the songs, like Lily, Rosemary, and the Jack of Hearts. That song, every time it goes, and the Jack of Hearts, like, that's fun to say. And luckily, you have no shortage of that on here. You're gonna hear that for like 8 minutes. And it's fun every time. I really enjoy that. The next step for me was learning about all of the insane things about this album. This one also has another really fun phrase on it in the song Isis, when he goes, well, I guess. That's been playing in my head nonstop since I first heard that song. And now, only recently, in the last couple of days, I've returned to Blonde on Blonde. I got it again, this time a new version of it. The other one was a mono copy, which I think is cool in an idea, but it was hurting my ears in execution. It was kind of more cramped. The stereo copy has been an easier way in for me, I feel like, for this album, and I'm really enjoying it. Who's shocked? Josh enjoys one of the highest rated albums of all time from the 60s, from arguably one of the most popular artists of all time. Insightful video, I'm sure. The reason I'm making this video is because I get so excited when I can feel that I'm at like the precipice of getting into another artist like really intensely. This happened with Autechre this last year, Yellow Magic Orchestra and Haruomi Osono the year before that. It's happened with like Aphex Twin. Obviously, it's happened with the Beatles. Again, look at my face. I could feel this week that that was happening with Bob Dylan, and I wanted to record something to try and capture the energy of what it feels like for me when I'm first getting into an artist. And this has happened to me before. I say tricked myself into liking Bob Dylan because I feel like I've tricked myself into liking artists before. This happened in high school with Radiohead. I remember I liked OK Computer and I got into that. And then I remember learning about Kid A and putting it on. And I remember being like, this is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. This sucks. But for some reason, I wanted to keep hearing the sound of it. The reason is that it's a good album, but I didn't know that at the time. At the time, I was confused and I just wanted to keep hearing the sounds that were on that album. And so I would just play it all of the time and I'd be listening to it and I'd be like, I don't really like this. And then I just keep listening to it. No one was forcing me to. My friends did not like that album. No one online was telling me to listen to that. No one around me wanted me to listen to Kid A. I wanted to listen to Kid A, and I didn't even want to listen to Kid A. So, but eventually something clicked in my head, and that became one of my favorite Radiohead albums. And then all of a sudden, the rest of the band unlocked for me. Like every album after that, I was able to figure it out pretty quick. And I realized that's a really fun way for me to get into an artist. I really enjoy when I hit kind of like a speed bump when I'm listening to an artist, and I'm like, oh, I don't think I like this at all. And then kind of turning it into like, well, I'm just gonna keep listening to it, I think. If it's interesting enough, I'm gonna keep listening to it to try and figure out what I don't like about it, or to try and figure out just the sounds that are going on. And so far, every time, that's ended in me like completely diving into the artist and getting super into them. And that's what I've done this time with Bob Dylan. I think the movie really did it for me. I think seeing a story play out and having the voice that I've heard on these songs kind of embodied as a person really helped me connect with Bob's voice like a lot more. Him and I are on a first name basis. Don't know if you know that or not, but Bobby D and I go way back. I think it's fun to get into artists that you don't immediately like. I think that's like really fun. And maybe this is an experience that a lot of people have and I'm just kind of talking your ear off right now, but I really enjoy doing that. I think it's fun and interesting to find something that you don't like right away and to just keep listening to it to see if you end up liking it. I think my next goals with Bob Dylan are to figure out what the basement tapes are all about. I know a little bit of the story. I imagine that will end up being something that I really enjoy listening to, but at the moment, I don't think I know enough about Bob Dylan and have enough familiarity with where he goes sonically and where he's been for me to enjoy a project like that fully. It'd be like putting on the McCartney album for someone that's not a Beatles fan yet. Like it's like you don't really understand why it's cool to hear this artist be so stripped back. At least, again, I imagine that's what it is, because guess what? Have not listened to the basement tapes, just talking out of my ass. I used to make these videos on TikTok where I would say, here's something that you could say to a fan of like Fall Out Boy or the Beatles, if you don't know anything about the band, but you want them to think that you do know something about the band. And I've decided today to do that in this video. So here is everything I think you can say to a Bob Dylan fan to make them think that you know Bob Dylan and you love Bob Dylan. So here's what we're gonna go with. First off, you're going to make fun of the cover of Nashville Skyline, whatever that 1969 album is, where he's got his arms sideways and he's looking down and the sun's shining through. Be pissed off if you see that album cover. Make some joke about that. Let's do the favorite album rotation. Let's say number 1, your favorite album, Blood on the Tracks. After that, Blonde on Blonde. After that, Bring It All Back Home. After that, Desire. After that, Love and Mercy. No, that's Brian Wilson. What's the 2001 album from Bob Dylan? Say that one. Look it up. I don't know. I'm here to give you the tools to do it yourself. I don't think it's Love and Mercy. It's something like that. It's almost Love and Mercy. Surely there's something you can say about a harmonica, but I can't figure it out yet. I think you're gonna wanna say more harmonica. I have no clue what this video is. I just can feel the excitement coming out of me as I'm talking about this artist, and so I wanted to capture it because I think it's funny to watch. I do this like once a year. I'll get super into an artist. I'm sure I'm going to get more into Bob Dylan as even this next week goes. Send your thoughts to the people at my job that are now listening to a lot of Bob Dylan albums through our shift because I'm in charge of the music. Wish them luck. Thanks for watching. Bye.